Chiron suddenly asked, "Where is Asclepius? Why does he not come to Chiron? For he knows what is with Chiron. I do not see him on earth among mortals, neither do I see him among the immortals." All were astonished at the words of Chiron, who with his thought could foresee all that is in the living world. But no one could tell him where Asclepius was and what had become of him. Not Telemus, not Heracles, not Phoenix, not Silenus. Only Heracles remembered. "On Taygetus, the hero Hippocyntides wounded me in the thigh. My wound would not heal. But Asclepius found me, led me to the river Pessinus, Melos, where the waves ever sing, and where, to the songs of the waves, wonder-working herbs grow on the bank. There he pulled a plant from the earth, applied it to my wound, and the wound instantly healed. The healer god called this plant the Era of Chiron." Suddenly Telemus pressed his ear to the earth and, rising, said in alarm, "I do not hear the blows of the hammers of the subterranean smith Cyclopes. The thunder hammer of Brontes is silent. The lightning hammer of Steropes is silent. The flashing hammer of Argesh is silent. Their hammers have never fallen silent since the time they began to forge lightnings for Zeus Cronides in the subterranean forge of Lemnos. I will go and learn. I will bring you news of Asclepius. Something unprecedented has happened on earth." And the kindly Cyclop Telemus departed. Then Phoenix rose and said, "There has never yet been such a day that your foresight, Chiron, could not find Asclepius on earth. I too will go. I will seek out the blind seer Tiresias, and I will learn from him where Asclepius is. Something unprecedented has happened on earth." For a long time, until dawn itself, Chiron the sufferer and Heracles, his unwitting murderer, awaited the return of their departed friends. But neither Telemus nor Phoenix returned. Chiron's torment grew ever stronger and more unbearable. Heracles grew ever more gloomy, observing the suffering of the noble centaur. Then Heracles rose and said, "I too will go, Chiron. I am accustomed to the unprecedented." But Telemus and Phoenix do not return. It seems the help of Heracles is needed on earth. "I will bring you healing as a gift." And Chiron remained alone with the sleeping Silenus in his cave on Malea. The tale of the casting down of the god Asclepius by Zeus, and the slaying of the smiths of lightnings. The subterranean Cyclopes, by Apollo. When in the pre-dawn sky, closing her golden lashes, the last star fell asleep, Telemus returned to the cave to Chiron. Chiron gazed into his sun eye in the middle of his brow arch and read in it, the seer, all that the ancient Cyclop had heard and learned. Then Sorrow embraced Chiron with her black wings and hid her own head within them, because even Sorrow dared not look into the eyes of the suffering Titan. So heavily did the news brought by Telemus wound him. With double strength, pain flared up in Chiron's body and thought. Yet still he wished to hear of everything from Telemus himself, because he loved the healer god Asclepius, who had conceived the idea of healing mortals from death, and who was strong with Titan truth. Many spoke then on earth of the wondrous deeds of Asclepius, the healer of mortals. They said that he healed not simply the sick, but healed even the incurable. He was able to do all that Chiron the healer did. He restored sight to the blind and lost limbs to the body. But Chiron did not enter into contest with the gods or with death. Asclepius, however, did enter. When the demon of death, Thanatos, was already bending over a mortal body, the healer god would drive death away from the body, and the dying one would rise to his feet. Even Hermes the soul guide he would force to retreat. When the latter was waiting for the phantom shadow to depart from the body, Asclepius would detain the soul in the body, and the dead would arise alive. Asclepius also obtained the flower of Prometheus, which blooms once in 1,000 years. The Titaness, nocturnal Hecate, helped him in this. She sent out her nocturnal dogs in all directions around Mount Caucasus, and they scented the wondrous flower. With the help of the magical flower of Prometheus, Asclepius began to make the bodies of heroes invulnerable. Thus he made the body of the fierce Tydeus. But the invulnerable Tydeus raged among the mortal heroes, and the gift of the healer god served him not for good. And the Cronide gods kept silent. Asclepius also possessed a magical balm, made from ambrosia and the blood of the Gorgon Medusa, and kept by the stern Athena Pallas, the daughter thought of Cronides. On the advice of the scoffer Momus, Pallas gave this balm to Asclepius. With this balm, he could awaken the dead and heal heroes from death. The earthly deeds of Asclepius began to trouble the peace and joy of the Cronide gods, the rulers of the world, in their heavenly houses, although they had previously favored the healer god. For to them he was the son of Apollo, and Apollo stood for him, shining with his golden sun bow. How then could they not love his son? Zeus summoned the gods to a council. He said, "Mad deeds does Asclepius work on earth, and he himself has gone mad. He heals men of their fear of the gods. Men will cease to fear us, the gods. They will rise up and ascend to Olympus and to the sky." Here the gods smiled merrily, as if mortals could ever not fear the gods. But Cronides did not smile with them. His voice thundered on Olympus. Mad himself, he heals mortals of the madness sent down upon them by the gods. Men will cease to become intoxicated with madness and to fear it. They will cease to persecute the mad, and will even wish to be mad themselves. But here Bacchus raised his ivy-twined thyrsus, which intoxicates mortals with madness, and exclaimed, "This thyrsus is stronger. It will yet madden even the mad." And again the faces of the gods became smiling. But the face of Zeus was unsmiling, and his voice was menacing. He is a violator of the laws of Ananke, inevitability. He makes the vulnerable invulnerable. But when he saw that even the invulnerable are mortal, then he conceived the idea of healing mortals from death. It was not enough for him to awaken to life the heroes fallen in battles. He wants to descend into Hades. He wants to bring back the shades of the departed heroes to earth and to clothe these shades with their incinerated bodies. And all the gods cried out in alarm. He is mad. Only Momus the scoffer kept silent, truthful through falsehood. Momus, the son of Night, knew that the gods punish with madness only those who go against the gods or enter into contest with a god, as well as all those who are displeasing to them. And most cruelly of all, Bacchus Dionysus punished with madness. The word of Zeus thundered in the sky. Even this will be too little for him. Tomorrow he will want to lock the gates of Hades for heroes. And again the gods cried out in alarm. He is mad. Only Momus the scoffer kept silent, truthful through falsehood. But even this will be too little for the madman. He will conceive the idea of descending into Tartarus itself, to the Titans, to revive in them their former strength and courage, and to return to them the beauty of the gods that they lost in the subterranean darkness. Even the incinerated he will wish to revive. And although the gods knew no fear and feared only Zeus Cronides alone, out of great respect for the thunder hurler, yet, hearing his words, they cried out in horror and wrath. He is mad. Incinerate him yourself with lightnings. Only Momus the scoffer kept silent, truthful through falsehood. Zeus said, "You have forgotten that Asclepius's mother, Caronus, is of the fiery race of the solar Titans. We cast down even the solar Titans, but she gave birth to Asclepius amidst the sun fire of Apollo. He is fiery within. The three barbed lightnings will not burn, will not wound such a god, even though he is only an earthly god and not a heavenly one. I could cast him down with lightnings into Tartarus in all his fiery power, with all his secrets of knowledge. But then he will kindle the hearts of the Titans with fire and rouse them against the gods. I cannot chain him. The chains will melt from his body." In horror and confusion, the gods rose from their seats, turning their gaze to Cronides. Could Cronides truly have been mistaken when, having tested the child god on Pelion, he said to the gods, "He is a god of men, not a god of gods"? Could an earthly god truly be stronger than the gods of the sky? Here it was, Chiron's retribution upon the Cronides. He had raised the child god for their own destruction. And then the voice of Momus, the son of Night, resounded. "Deafen him with thunders, Cronides." And the scoffer god smirked. Again the faces of the gods became joyful. And Cronides said to Momus, "You guessed my thought, Momus. I myself decided the same. Let him now resurrect a dead hero." And again Momus smirked, truthful through falsehood. Was not Zeus the forethinker? Were not all the thoughts of the gods his thoughts? Olympus emptied. The joyful gods went their separate ways to their golden palaces. Only Apollo was not present at the council of the gods. He had flown away then to Hyperborea. Without a defender in the heavens, Asclepius remained. The Cronide gods began to await his deeds. And behold, the healer god resurrected a half-god hero near Delphi. The name of the one restored to life by Asclepius remained unknown, for his body had been incinerated by lightning to such an extent that not even ashes were found. Only at that place is there a tomb to the unknown hero, raised centuries later by men. Again, all the Cronide gods gathered on Olympus. And Zeus immediately sent Hermes to the Cyclops giants in the subterranean forge. He commanded the smith's hammerers to raise their thunder hammers and to deafen Asclepius with the thunders under the flashing blows of the lightnings. The ancient Titans one-eyed listened to the cunning messenger, laid their hammers on the anvils, and all three said at once, Brontes, Steropes, and Argesh, "We are smiths. We forge lightnings for Zeus, but we do not hurl them. We swore not to fight with the gods, and we keep our oath. For Asclepius is a god. Why then does Cronides urge us to break our oath, and thereby violates it himself? We are subterranean. We do not know the terrestrial deeds of the Cronides. We only know, on earth lives the righteous Titan, the son of Cronus, Chiron. Let Cronides ask Chiron whether the deed he himself has conceived is right. Zeus has forces for punishment, but we do not punish. We are smiths. Zeus freed us from Tartarus and led us out onto the earth. He defeated the Titans and returned us again under the earth. So we forge lightnings for Zeus. They spoke. They took up their hammers from the anvils and began to forge once more. Hermes flew back to the sky with nothing. The messenger reported to Zeus. The Cyclopes disobey your word. They do not wish to raise their hammers against Asclepius. On earth, they honor only Chiron. But they forge lightnings for you. A black day is coming. The Banes will fly upon Olympus if Asclepius obtains the lightnings from the Cyclopes and strikes the Cronaids with them. Strike him yourself. And then, amidst thunders and lightnings, Cronaids descended to Delphi, where Asclepius had resurrected the hero. The thunders struck in the illumination of dancing lightnings, struck as they had never yet struck, neither against the ancient Titans nor against Atlas. It was as if Cronaids had taken a brazen mountain and crashed it against an empty brazen cauldron sea, and not with one mountain had he crashed, but with 1,000 mountains. And there, where the thunders struck, all living things were deafened to death. Ears scattered like dandelions, bodies and heads burst, trees lay down on the ground, and the mirrors of all waters shattered into diamond dust. Even the air became breathless. The healer god fell to the earth. Fire burst from his ears and nostrils, and he closed his eyes, which had known and thought the secrets of living life. The forces, the servants of Zeus, carried him into a deep, sea-like ravine, called the Ravine of Mosses. There grew age-old mosses, myriad-handed, myriad-lipped. And when anyone fell into that ravine, be it beast, or bird, or serpent, the mosses instantaneously seized them, drew them into the depths of the ravine, and at once the victim was overgrown with age-old moss. Even the wind was nearly dragged in there once. It left them half of its wings and barely flew out of the ravine. That is why no one on earth knew where the body of Asclepius was hidden. The ravine quickly became overgrown with a luxuriant, many-colored moss. Apollo returned to Delphi from Hyperborea, and immediately Artemis told him of the casting down of the god Asclepius. It was as if the Cyclopes had struck him down with lightnings. But where the body of Asclepius was, she did not know. Apollo flew into a rage against the gods. All in fire rays, he soared to the sky and appeared before Zeus. For the first time, Zeus Cronaides saw him like this. He did not know that Apollo was so mighty. And Apollo asked Cronaides, "Where is Asclepius, the son of Apollo?" And for the first time, the father of the gods, Zeus Cronaides, gave no answer to his son Apollo. He deceived Apollo with his silence. Only Momus, truthful through falsehood, said, "Apollo, the Cyclopes forged the lightnings," and as always, smirked. Apollo plunged from the sky down under the earth, straight into the forge of Lemnos, and before Cronaides had time to grasp the sun god's design, the golden arrow of the sun was already lying on the string of his bow. In the subterranean forge, in the bowels of the earth, the light of the free sky shone upon the Cyclopes. For the first time, the sun penetrated there, and with their hammers raised, the one-eyed Cyclopes Brontes, Steropes, and Argesh froze. It was not the smith god Hephaestus before them, but Apollo with a golden bow in his hand. Fiercely bright, to the point of blindness, was his flashing wrath, and he blinded the sun eye of the Cyclopes with the light of the sky. No longer shall you forge for Cronaides the 3 barbed lightnings. Evil do you forge under the earth for the gods. On earth, it is accomplished. Your lightnings have slain Asclepius, the son of Apollo. No longer shall you be, subterranean blind ones, smiths. Let Hephaestus forge in your forge. 3 suns flared up as a fire, 3 eyes of 3 Cyclopes, blinded by the radiance of the sun god. Had not they, the Cyclopes, rejected the will of Cronaides to strike Asclepius down with lightnings, and to violate the ancient oath? Had not the gods sworn to the Cyclopes with a great oath never to harm them, and never to enter into struggle against them? And then the 3 giants, blindly, at the sound of the sun god's voice, hurled 3 hammers. The hammers struck one another in the air with 3 thunders. Thousands of sparks sprayed, scorching the subterranean vaults of the forge. But already, one after another, 3 heavenly arrows flew at the 3 subterranean sun eyes. And those eyes were extinguished forever. The 3 ancient titans, the 3 Cyclops giants, fell, and nearly overturned the mountain above the forge. But Apollo let fly a 4th arrow, and with it gaped open the earth down to Tartarus. Then Tartarus took the immortal bodies of the 3 blind ancient Cyclops titans into its deep darkness. And Hephaestus took over the forge of the Cyclopes. The smith god forged servants hammerers from bronze, gave them the hammers of the Cyclopes into their bronze hands, and commanded them to forge lightnings for Zeus. And the bronze servant smiths forged. Still fewer titans remained on earth. Ever more mighty grew the Cronaids. Thus the son of Cronus, Chiron, learned from the last kindly Cyclop, Telemus, of the destruction of the god Asclepius and of the subterranean Cyclopes. But that the body of Asclepius lay in the ravine of Mosses, Telemus also did not know. Only after a silence did he say, "On Olympus, all the gods have gathered. They are judging the sun god Apollo, the murderer of the Cyclopes, who violated the oath by the Styx. According to the law of the Fates Moirai, he must be cast down as an oath-breaking god for 9 years into Tartarus. But not yet had the suffering teacher of heroes emptied the entire vessel of grief this day. Another bitter piece of news awaited him. The tale of the deprivation of the gift of vision. From Tiresias by the gods, of the loud deeds of Heracles, and of his gifts to Chiron. On this day, the solar horses stood long at midday, awaiting the sun god from Olympus, where the trial of the god Apollo was taking place. And the solar horses did not know who would now take the radiant reins into his hands, the ancient titan Helios or the young son of Zeus. The horses pawed the air with their diamond hooves, raising their shining wings upward, and above them on a golden pole hung the sun crown of the god. And in this the longest midday on earth, Phoenix returned to Chiron's cave, and trailing behind him, leaning on a staff, came the blind Tiresias, no longer a seer, but simply a blind man. Recognizing Tiresias, Chiron rejoiced. "Tiresias, truly, the excess of my suffering hinders me from seeing clearly the invisible, that which is hidden from mortal eyes. I summoned you. Tell me, clairvoyant, where is the body of the god Asclepius?" Lowering his head deeply, so as to hide his eyes, Tiresias stood before Chiron, and sad was the voice of the renowned seer. "I cannot even see the visible world. I am only a blind man." Chiron understood that Tiresias had lost his gift of vision, and asked him, "For what guilt is this punishment?" "The secret thoughts of the gods did I reveal to mortals, so that the heroes might know what the gods are plotting against them. And for this, the gods deprived me of the gift of vision. The past and the future are closed to me, and I do not know where the body of Asclepius is." Now Tiresias is no longer a physician of the suffering soul and thought. He is only a sick man. "I myself wandered along dark roads in search of you, or Asclepius. The gods deprived me of eyes for the visible world, and also deprived me of eyes for the invisible. And I dare not ask you, sufferer, where is the physician who will heal me?" Chiron sighed heavily and said, "O Cronides, is this not too much for Chiron? What else will you grant me today? For Chiron's suffering is immortal, and it needs ever new food. Send it. Then, gods, send it to the son of Cronus. Everything has a measure on earth, but it seems that for suffering there is no measure. And, after a short silence, he added, "But there will be. And then, turning to Tiresias, he comforted him, while himself choking with pain. "Endure, Tiresias. Soon the gift you lost will return to you." Then the Cyclop Telemus rose from the earth and bowed low to Chiron. "Many centuries have passed by, Telemus, both in large strides and small. I have seen a great measure of suffering and a great measure of courage. But you are right. There is no measure for a titan's suffering, just as there is no measure for his courage. Before no one has Telemus bowed. Today I bow to your courage, Chiron. You have surpassed the measure of Prometheus." But none of Chiron's friends in the cave, neither Telemus, nor Phoenix, nor Tiresias, yet knew what new feat of great courage the martyr centaur had conceived. In these hours and days, time did not enter the cave on Malea, and sleep did not enter there. And in the world beyond the cave, years flowed, but no one kept count of them. The earth was full, both in the world of living life and in the world of dead life, of tales and tidings of the deeds feats of Heracles, who had set out from Chiron to return to him with something wondrously mighty, capable of defeating the Lernaean venom. But the flying and flowing and loose earthly messengers were all silent as to whether Heracles had obtained the unknown healing remedy for Chiron, and instead spoke of Heracles, the son of Zeus, the destroyer of Titan shapeshifters, giants, and monsters. He spared neither mortals nor immortals. And Mother Earth Gaia was horrified, and the Titan's son Helios marveled, and even the gods of the netherworld looked with alarm at the entrance to Hades. Would the strength of Heracles appear there? The demon of death, Thanatos himself, had felt the power of his hands, and there was no longer any opponent for Heracles on earth. Hark! What are these nocturnal voices? It is the streams of the springs and torrents on Malea, trembling and shiveringly wrapping themselves in watery cloaks, speaking hurriedly, fearfully. Heracles has wrested the horn from the father of rivers, the Titan Achilles, and the bull-headed Achilles has become one-horned. This horn is always full of fruits. Is it not for Chiron the sufferer, this horn of plenty? Does it not heal? Hark! Again someone's heavy steps on Malea, and again at the entrance to Chiron's cave resounded the voice that never asked for the right of entry. "I am come to you, Chiron. May I enter?" And Chiron answered, "Enter, friend." Again all of Chiron's friends gathered in the cave around him, Telemus, Phoenix, Tiresias, and Heracles. And there, as always, lay the drunken Silenus with his wineskin. Heracles said, Here is the horn of plenty. It will feed the hungry one in the desert and at sea, if he rejoices in life. Only those who rejoice does this horn feed, and it always adds abundance to abundance. Here is the Colchian magical potion of Hecate, made from the juice of the flower of Prometheus. It makes the body invulnerable. Here is the balm from the drops of the blood of the Gorgon Medusa. It revives the dead. I wanted to ease your pain, Chiron. I obtained everything that Asclepius possesses, but I do not know how to apply it. But you know. Heracles placed his 3 gifts on a stone table before Chiron. And now my path lies to the garden of the Hesperides. I will obtain for you the golden apples from the apple tree of life. I will also bring you the dead water from Hades. And just at that moment, when Heracles spoke these words, a dove flew into the cave with a drop of ambrosia from the spring of immortality, which gushes in that very garden of the Hesperides. But Chiron did not allow her to come near him, so as not to infect the bird with his venom, and the dove began to circle the cave, examining Chiron's guests, since only to an immortal could she pass on her drop. Finally, she flew up to Telemus. He was of the ancient Eurynesians, and settled on his palm. But in Telemus's hands there was neither a petal nor a little flower cup to receive this drop. Then the dove fluttered onto the table and placed the ambrosial drop into the horn of plenty. The horn immediately filled with fruits, and all the fruits, having absorbed the fragrant breath of the drop, which does not dry up until the drop is drunk to the end, turned into the food of the immortals. The dove flew away, and Chiron's friends began to beg him to eat one of the fruits of immortality. Perhaps the fruit would soothe his pain. And although Chiron was touched by the deeds and care for him of the destroyer of the world of Titans, he said, Chiron no longer needs the apples of the Hesperides, nor does he need the fruits of immortality. There is already too much immortality in me, food for the venom. But Chiron will rise and go himself for the healer. Chiron's friends were astonished at his words, for even with the slightest movement, pain fell upon his body with double strength. But they also rejoiced, believing that Chiron had found a healing remedy against the insurmountable venom. Chiron began to rise from the earth, saying, And an immortal body is vulnerable, and the immortal gods are vulnerable. It was hard for Chiron, stricken by the cruel venom, to lift his horse body from the earth. It was hard for him to straighten his human body upon it, blazing with a fierce heat and having lost its flexibility. But he permitted no one to help Chiron. And still Chiron rose on his horse legs and straightened his human torso. He said, Asclepius is not in Tartarus. Somewhere he is hidden, invisible, on the soil of the earth. The lightnings did not burn him. Only the thunders could have cast him down by deafening him and stifling in him the voice of immortality. I myself will go and find his body. Then Chiron's friends understood his words about the healer. They understood also that he had not found a remedy against the venom, but was going to accomplish a new feat and to accept on his path yet a new, unprecedented torment. For every step of Chiron along the unknown road to Asclepius would be an ordeal and an execution. Then Heracles stepped forward. He said, I will go instead of you. But Chiron shook his head, and although the pain made it hard for him to speak, he still uttered, Cover me all over with merry foliage. Clothe my shoulders and back and flanks with it. Only leave my head as it is. The venom has not yet touched Chiron's head. It does not wish to grow mad to the delight of the Chronides. Still strong is my strength of immortality, reinforced by knowledge, to the envy of the gods. And his friends clothed him with broad-leaved foliage. Into a green canopy on horse legs, with the head of a god, Chiron was transformed. But he forbade his friends to follow him, and they remained in the cave on Malea. Thus began Chiron's journey in search of the body of Asclepius, the god, the healer of mortals. The tale of Chiron's journey, in search of the body of Asclepius, and of the quiet deed of Heracles. Chiron was already far from the cave when Heracles came out of it and strode after Chiron, not letting him out of his sight. The hero decided not to leave the lone seeker-sufferer on his arduous path, and to imperceptibly follow him everywhere at a distance, violating Chiron's prohibition. Heracles took with him neither his bow, nor his arrows, nor his club. He only pulled a luxuriant bush out of the earth, pressed it with his hands to his chest, and walked under its cover, stopping at every step. It seemed that not a mighty hero, but a bush stood on the road behind Chiron. Heracles thought, even a Titan will need the help of a hero. Not with Chiron's renowned stride, but stumbling on all 4 horse legs and swaying like drunken Silenus, the centaur walked, as if the soil was drilling into his hooves with red-hot augers, and as if the very air was plunging invisible teeth into him. Everything in him groaned, his muscles and sinews. Everything cried out from pain in 1,000 voices. Stop, Chiron, have mercy on us, Titan. Will no one truly hear their groan? Is the world truly deaf and mute? The world heard. The world saw. All living things opened their ears and eyes and held their breath. All wished to help Chiron, But no one dared, for the gods also see and hear everything, and the earth by its help to the Titan could involuntarily betray his feet. The forces of Zeus would have carried Asclepius away. And although the whole earth was his friend, Chiron would have been alone without Heracles. Chiron walked and asked all living life on earth, "Where is the body of Asclepius?" But no one knew of this, neither beasts, nor birds, nor grasses, nor waters, nor stones. And the Titan Helios saw from the height of the sky his head of a god above the green canopy of foliage, beneath which was hidden his suffering body and its disfigurement. He checked the horses of the sun and asked, "Where are you going, Chiron?" "I seek the body of Asclepius, the god, the healer of mortals." "Where is it, Helios?" "You see all, know all, hear all." Helios answered Chiron, "IDONOTKNOW. I was not shining in the sky then. Ask the night." "But the night is silent." Chiron stopped and pondered. "Even the sun does not know where Asclepius is. Who then knows? Is he not chained?" And Chiron decided to swim across the sea and ask Hephaestus, in the forge on the island of Lemnos, if he had fettered Asclepius. Chiron descended from the mountains to the sea, and Heracles remained standing under the cover of a bush on the high seashore and awaited the centaur's return. Chiron plunged into the waves and swam, but, fearing to poison anyone with his venom, he forbade the creatures of the sea to swim close to him. The dolphins did not obey his voice. They dived under his horse body and carried him to the island of Lemnos. Some dolphins died in agony from the cruel venom along the way, but others immediately replaced them. These also died, and again others replaced them. And Chiron could not dissuade them, for the dolphins are willing to sacrifice themselves for all that is good. They saw the great torment of Chiron, comprehended his lofty feat, and wanted Chiron to reach Lemnos as quickly as possible. There Chiron descended into the forge of the Cyclopes. The lame god was astonished at the sight of Chiron and at the fact that he was all covered with foliage that had stuck to his body. Never before had a centaur entered this forge. The smith god said, "You are the first here." "And the last," added Chiron. "If you remember Titan truth, then tell me without concealment. Did you not fetter the body of Asclepius? And do you not know where it is? Zeus has cast him down." The lame god had not forgotten his lameness at the hands of Zeus. He would have revealed to Chiron where the body of Asclepius was, but he did not know this either. He answered, "I heard that Asclepius is a madman, and that Zeus deafened his madness with thunders. For a mad god would madden the whole world, and then everyone in the world would become mad. The sea would always be in storms from madness. The mountains would dance in a mad dance. Trees would stand on their heads with roots upward. Lions in madness would suckle deer, and fire would want to drink water, and all the coals would want to be diamonds. Everyone would begin to hurl kindled torches at the sky and shout that they are thunder hurlers. Everyone would begin to drive bronze barrels in a bronze chariot over a bronze bridge and shout that they command the thunders. Or have you forgotten about mad Salmoneus? They would begin to hack off their own legs with axes, thinking they are cutting down grapevines, and shout in madness, 'Down with Bacchus!' Or have you forgotten about the mad Bacchus fighter, King Lycurgus? They would wish that everything they touched would instantly turn into gold. Water and bread would turn into gold, but the living world would remain hungry. Or have you forgotten about King Midas? They would call the blind sighted, and the sighted blind. Or have you forgotten about the blindness of the sighted Oedipus, superscript 1, the father slayer? They would all wish to fly up to Olympus and be gods. Or have you forgotten about mad Bellerophon? They would call all that is white black, and all that is black white. They would argue over the shadow of an ass, as if over a sucked egg. Point superscript 2, they would all compete with one another in madness, so that one would become madder than the other. No, a god cannot be mad. But I did not fetter Asclepius, and I do not know where his body is. Chiron swam back to the shore, and again dolphins perished for his sake. Then Chiron decided to ask the lord of the netherworld, the god Hades, about Asclepius. He found a deep crevice in the earth and called out to Hades. And at the voice of the son of Cronus, the god of the world of shades rose from the netherworld. Never before had any immortal titan appealed to the subterranean god. Hades said, "The subterranean Charis banes do not hover around you. And to the Erinyes, the demons of vengeance, you are not subject. You are not subject." Superscript 1 ORHAVEYOUFORGOTT in ABOUTTHEBLIND and is SOFTHESIGHTEDOEDIPUS. According to myth, though Oedipus was sighted, he killed his father, not knowing it was his father. He married his mother, not knowing it was his mother. Such is the blindness of sightedness. The seer Tiresias, though blind, came to know, i.e., saw and thought, what was hidden from the sighted Oedipus. Such is the sightedness of blindness. Into the myth of Oedipus, the criminal through ignorance, is incorporated the myth of the riddle of the Sphinx. Who walks in the morning on 4 legs, at midday on 2, and in the evening on 3? The answer is well known, man. Oedipus solved this riddle. Yet the riddle of the Sphinx had a deeper meaning, namely, it is the riddle of what knowledge is. Therefore, the riddle itself only began with the answer. It asked, what can a man know? It turned out that wise Oedipus, having solved the riddle of the Sphinx and given the answer, man, remained in ignorance about what a man can know of his own fate, and himself became a criminal through ignorance. The riddle of the Sphinx was truly enigmatic. And Oedipus, a sighted man who grew proud of his wisdom, turned out in the end to be a blind man. Knowledge is boundless, and Oedipus's answer is only the first step on the path into that infinite depth of the sea into which the Sphinx threw herself when she heard Oedipus's answer, man, and smiled. The expressions blindness of sightedness and sightedness of blindness are thus connected with the myth of Oedipus and the seer Tiresias. Superscript 2 Theshadowofanas. There existed a Greek saying, to argue over the shadow of an ass, meaning, it is not worth a sucked egg. To the demon of death, Thanatos, nor to me. Why have you summoned me, son of Cronus? Chiron said to him, deliver to me from Tartarus the body of Asclepius, if it has been cast down into Tartarus. Or tell me where it is, in the bowels or on the soil of the earth. If you deliver the body of Asclepius to me from Tartarus, I shall go down voluntarily to your subterranean kingdom, as a mortal. The god Hades answered Chiron, Tartarus is not subject to me, Chiron. I am not all-powerful in the subterranean world. Only Zeus has power over Tartarus, and I do not know where Asclepius is. Only the shades of mortals and Hades are subject to me. He, however, is a god. But I will tell you what I know. Only he who gives a part of his own living life will find the body of the god. And Hades went back under the earth. Then Chiron decided to appeal to the Eurynocean Titans cast down into Tartarus and ask them about Asclepius. But to do this, one had to strike mightily, with all the force of a Titan, thrice with the hoof against the earth. And Chiron did not know if his body would endure the torment from a single blow. Would the cauldron raging within him not burst? Would the black foam not spray in all directions from his body? Would it not splash him all over with venom? And Chiron also did not know if his thought would endure the second blow of his hoof, and whether Chiron would not become mad. He did not think of the third blow. He knew, if he could endure 2 blows, then his immortal strength would endure the third as well. For a long time he stood in thought, tormented all over by pain. And at a distance, like a luxuriant bush, stood Heracles. He saw Chiron's thought, and waited to see if the Titan would need the hands of Heracles. And suddenly Chiron stamped mightily with his hoof, and let out the menacing cry of the Titans. His body under the foliage shuddered, and black venom sprayed from beneath the leaves. The Titan groaned heavily from the fierce pain. He pressed his head firmly with his palms, and again stamped on the ground, with a second Titan cry. But it was not a menacing call. His second cry to the Eurynocean Titans sounded as a lofty lament. Already Chiron's body, writhing in torment, was reeling, and it was as if a black flame rose from it in the air. Still louder Chiron groaned, still more firmly pressed his head with his palms, and for the third time stamped on the ground with his front hoof. But he could no longer utter the cry for the third time. Only a groaning exclamation stretched out into the distance, and there was so much sorrow in it that the stern destroyer of Titans released the luxuriant bush from his hands and stretched out those hands to the Titan Chiron. And then there came to Heracles from Tartarus the subterranean voice of the cast-down Cronus. I hear you, Chiron. Speak. But Chiron was already lying on his side, fallen to the earth, and all his horse and human body shuddered and blazed. Then Heracles stepped towards him to help. Only one step did the hero take towards Chiron, and stopped. You stepped forth too soon, hero. The matter of Heracles has not yet come. Chiron was still the immortal Titan, the son of Cronus. Face down to the earth, the centaur, felled by pain, pressed himself, and in the world's silence rang his quiet voice. Cronus, where is the body of the god Asclepius? And the voice of Cronus answered, Asclepius is not in Tartarus. He is in a ravine. But it was as if heavy bronze bells had struck under the earth, in the depths of Tartarus, with a long, 100-tongued boom, and this thunder and boom drowned out the last words of Cronus. It was the guards of the Titans, the 100-handed ones, striking the bronze walls of Tartarus with their bronze clubs at the voice of the ancient Eurynocean Cronus, the father of Zeus and Chiron. Everything fell silent. Only the beating of Heracles' heart could be heard, also like a bell. For a long, long time Chiron lay thus on the earth. The ground around him turned black, and all living things nearby died. Again stood Heracles like a luxuriant bush at a distance, and waited for the moment when the Titan would have need of Heracles. And then Chiron braced his hand against the earth and slightly lifted his human body. His godlike head was lowered, and it had turned entirely white. Its gold had vanished, and the silver had fled from his beard. And, as among mortals, furrows of wrinkles cleaved Chiron's face. Only his eyes still shone with immortality and thought. Chiron only rose to his feet by nightfall. And when he rose, beneath him, in the place where his body had lain, the earth smoked and smoldered. Again Chiron set out on his way, and again behind him, in the distance, strode slowly, imperceptibly to Chiron, Heracles, continuing his quiet deed. And truly, a quiet deed did Heracles perform, but this quiet deed was a great one. Night, darkness. But Chiron needed light. Then Chiron approached a resinous pine tree. He made himself a torch, and the torch flared up of its own accord from the heat that emanated from Chiron's body. With the blazing torch in his hand, the centaur, mighty of will, continued on his way to find that ravine, unknown to him, in which lay the body of Asclepius. All the power of his vision he strained in the centaur's body, blazing from the venom, but the image of the healer god did not reveal itself to his gaze. Thus Chiron and Heracles walked all night, peering into every ravine along the way, and time was already approaching dawn, that time when all mosquitoes and midges hide under leaves and in crevices, when suddenly Chiron heard near his ear a fine buzzing in the air and an even finer and tinkling voice. It was a midge, the tiniest of all the midges in the world, speaking. Chiron, you seek Asclepius. He is hidden in the ravine of mosses. I made out the word of Cronus. Long ago I would have told you this, but I was struck voiceless with fear, so frightfully did the 100-handed one strike the bronze walls of Tartarus. All this time I have been sitting on your eyelash and warming myself. The night is cold. Follow me. I will lead you to the ravine of mosses. And the son of Cronus, wise Chiron, followed the midge, while behind him in the distance strode Heracles. When the sun was again at midday, Chiron reached the ravine of mosses under the midge's guidance and immediately saw from above, through the high mossy cover, the body of the healer god lying in the depths of the ravine. But he still had to descend down the steep wall of the ravine and raise the mossy covering. The heart of the suffering Titan rejoiced, and he again felt vigor within him. Once more his great courage gathered its strength, and Chiron began to descend into the depths of the ravine, towards Asclepius. The fingers of the mosses stretched out menacingly towards him, but immediately fell away, burning up, for the heat of the centaur's body was lethal to them. High and rich are the carpets of mosses above Asclepius the god. But Chiron tore away this covering of mosses, and the body of Asclepius was revealed to him. Face upwards to the sky lay the healer god, and so radiantly did he lie there that it seemed as if sleep were guarding his youth here. And Chiron already stretched out his hands to him, to lift the immortal, now dead, body and carry it out of the tomb ravine. But suddenly he drew his hands back and held them far from Asclepius. Only then did the centaur healer remember that he must not touch the body of the healer god with his hands. The frightful black venom raging in Chiron's body made his touch poisonous. All living things would at once decay, and again the centaur sighed heavily. Again grief came to Chiron. Long ago it had overflowed the vessel's edge, but to the Cronides, it seemed, it was still not enough. And Chiron could not leave the body in the ravine and go to Malea for his friends. The forces, the servants of Cronides, would have carried Asclepius away and hidden him once more in a secret place. Then he heard a voice from above. Chiron, is there no Heracles on earth? The Titan threw back his white head and saw above him, at the edge of the ravine, Heracles, the half-god, the destroyer of the world of Titans, had been standing there for a long time, looking at Chiron. He knew, the Titan, too, would have need of Heracles. Then a double joy shone in the eyes of the sufferer. He rejoiced that there was someone to lift the body of the god, and he rejoiced also that the work of the mentor of half-god's heroes had not perished on earth, that the heart of the half-god hero was still strong with Titan truth. And Chiron answered the voice of Heracles. Heracles remains Heracles. The hero lifted the enormous body of the god in his hands, and it seemed that not a body, but the whole ravine Heracles had heaved onto his shoulder and strode with that ravine into the mountains. The hero carried the god. Thus the two of them walked, ahead, Heracles with his burden, behind, Chiron. He sent Heracles ahead, so that he might carry Asclepius to the cave as quickly as possible, while he himself, weakened, hobbled behind, falling further and further behind the hero, who strode with the stride of the gods. The hobbling Titan, the son of Cronus. Had the world of heroes ever seen a Titan hobbling along the earth like an old jade? Clouds of midges gathered over the marsh. The midges spoke to one another in thousands upon thousands of voices. The son of Cronus is hobbling through the world. The Cronide gods see this and are silent. Why does the world not burn with shame? The tale of the last conversation. Of Chiron's friends. In the cave on Malea. With his wineskin and syrinx in his hands, Silenus sang a little song in Chiron's cave. There lived Chiron. There lived Silenus. Ululu. Chiron thought much. And I drink. He thought and thought. Chiron. Ululu. And he thought not to drink. And I drink. Because he is drunk. Without wine. I am not drunk, though I drink. Tra-la-la. And I blow on my little pipe. And drink. Ululu. 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 Why then into the wine? Tra-la-la. Has a tear of Silenus. Fallen. Because the wineskin is growing empty. Ululu. Ululu. Old friend. Chiron listened to Silenus's little song. He knew that wise Silenus the drunkard loved him and was taking leave of him, his old friend, having divined his decision, which the centaur's other friends had not yet guessed at. Weakened, already unable even to suffer and yet immeasurably suffering, Chiron lay by the wall, leaning his head and back against it, and looked at the body of Asclepius, stretched out on the floor of the cave. A new guest Chiron found in the cave on Malea, the half-god Peleus, who had come to his teacher with a request to take upon himself the upbringing of his firstborn son by the sea goddess Thetis, Achilles. But, learning of Chiron's doom, Peleus decided to remain with him in the cave, to be his support and protection. Motionless lay the body of the god Asclepius with his arms stretched out above his head, as if he had raised them to stop the thunders, and thus had been cast down by Cronides. And around them sat Chiron's friends and guests and conversed among themselves. Here also was the last heavenly Cyclop, a Eurynocean, who had departed from the terrestrial cold into the bowels of the earth to be closer to the fire of the depths of Mother Earth Gaia, the healer Telemus. And Phoenix, who had regained his sight thanks to the wonder eyes gifted to him by Chiron, eyes that saw the wondrous truth of living life, as ordinary eyes see ordinary truth. Here also was the twice-blind seer Tiresias, deprived by the gods of his eyes, himself in need of a guide. Here also was the destroyer of the world of Titans, mad Heracles, the son of Zeus, the great unwitting murderer, mightier than a god. And here was Peleus, the half-god hero, who had known the burden of a silent marriage with an immortal and who did not expect an imminent retribution. The Nereid Thetis had borne him a son, the bravest among heroes, but not a god. Had she become the wife of Zeus, she would have borne Zeus a son. That son would have been stronger than his father and his lightnings, and would have mastered the world. And here was the mentor of heroes, wise centaur Chiron, doomed to hopeless torment, and yet another, Silenus. And while everyone looked at Asclepius, Silenus pressed his lips to the wineskin, took a sip, gulp after gulp, and murmured his little song. There lived Chiron. There lived Silenus. Ululu. Of many things did his friends and pupils speak during this second night in Chiron's cave. Chiron himself, however, was silent, and they did not know whether he heard them or whether he had entirely withdrawn into his suffering. His eyes were closed, as if he were slumbering, and he was so quiet that Tiresias said, "Even the raging sea of grief yields to the breath of peace." None of those sitting in the cave, except the drunken Silenus, knew that in these hours, fortifying himself with thought, the immortal centaur was accepting a great decision. Since he could no longer overcome his suffering with thought, and only by his Titan, was he holding back his lament and groan. At first the guests spoke of the two worlds, of living and dead life. And Phoenix, inquisitive and stubborn, always seeking out something that troubled him with its obscurity, asked, "Telemus, have you heard of truth? Where is it?" And Telemus answered, "Truth is the business of mortals. But one who wishes to heal knows. Living life struggles against dead life, and in this lies all truth, in their struggle. Only in the world of living life, where there is joy, is there truth. In the world of dead life, there is no truth, there is only oblivion." And still Phoenix continued to question Telemus. "But I am mortal, Telemus, and within me is thought. Is it not thought that struggles against death?" And for Telemus, Heracles answered, "Against death one struggles with one's hands. It is hard to push back her hand. She is stronger than a giant." But Heracles pushed it back. Then Phoenix asked him, "Have you heard of truth, Heracles?" The half-god hero was astonished. Who is she? A Titaness? A goddess? Or a demon of the subterranean gloom? I have not heard of such an immortal. And then everyone looked at Heracles, and again Phoenix asked him, "Do you know what decides in the world? Strength. Truth is that strength." But Heracles only shrugged his shoulders and said, "I have not yet met such a strength. If I meet it, Heracles will wrestle even with truth." And again, at these words, everyone looked at Heracles' muscles, for they knew that Heracles did not know how to jest. Here Phoenix recalled the words of Chiron. Strength is in lofty thought. The higher the thought, the stronger it is. It conquers both the great and the small. Great pity was the strength of Asclepius, because it was his highest thought. Not from weakness, from great strength does great pity flow. Then Chiron's guests began to speak of pity, and again recalled the words of Chiron, although no one could say whether Chiron had spoken exactly thus. The gods think that for great pity, great time is also needed. And, admiring life, they forget about small pity for those who have only a small time for life. Thus it is for Olympus, for the sky of the immortals, where time is only ever great. But Asclepius said, even in a small time, great pity can be contained for one who possesses it. This pity he gifted to mortals. He did not take pride in his immortality, like the gods of the sky, but rejoiced in it, like an earthly god, because, being immortal, he could always pour out to mortals the compassion of a healer. And that was Asclepius's strength. These words astonished Heracles, and he asked, where then is the strength? Here he lies, the earthly god, before us, cast down by the gods of the sky. If strength is in the lofty, then giants would have the highest thoughts, and monsters, the most monstrous pity. I have wrestled with giants and monsters, but I have not met with pity from giants and monsters. Such strength is incomprehensible to me. My strength is I myself. But when Heracles said this, Silenus suddenly raised his head and muttered, though it was unknown whether he was jesting or speaking seriously. O Heracles, you will someday stuff yourself so full of feats that you'll burst. Better to drink with me. I still have half a wineskin of truth. It will wrestle down Heracles too. He spoke, but was furtively glancing sideways at Chiron. And when the always reasonable Phoenix remarked, your drunken truth is blind, the drunken Silenus laughed in reply. He alone could still laugh in Chiron's cave, and said, just because an owl is blind by day does not make it stupider than a cuckoo. To a drunken truth, the whole world is drunk. Chiron's guest spoke of knowledge. Tiresias said, knowledge is boredom when there is no one to serve with that knowledge. It is an eternally boiling brew, in which the living juices have boiled away. Then it is better to know nothing at all. Boredom serves no one. Telemus began to speak. Knowledge always serves, otherwise it dies. It too is mortal, and when it gives of itself, then it is nourished, and grows, and matures, and rejoices. I, as a healer, know this. Once I lived among the Cyclopes. Now, and the last Cyclop fell silent, thinking something over, and then added, now I love to know for myself, and to measure within myself the depth of knowledge. Joyful it is for me to see this depth and its radiance. And the deeper this depth, the stronger the radiance within it. But, like a veil of cloud covering the sun, sad was the voice of the twice blinded Tiresias. Telemus, behind the radiance, is night. I, a blind man, have come to know how deep this night is and how starless. Your radiance is no more than a spark or the twinkling of a starry ring. Only a ray, only light and fire are truth. Should the ray go out, and truth vanishes, then darkness comes. It is hard to live when truth has gone out. But Phoenix shook his head. He said, I too was blind, and darkness is truth. The guests spoke, but none of them could agree with the other, neither Telemus with Tiresias, nor Phoenix with Heracles. And no one could reconcile them, because Chiron was silent. And here everyone felt what the earth would lose if Chiron were no longer on earth. And they looked at him with alarm. And then, looking around at everyone, the hitherto silent Peleus unexpectedly said, how many blind ones are here? Silenus is blind from wine. Phoenix is blind too. He has someone else's eyes. Tiresias is blind. He has no eyes at all. And Telemus has only one eye, and it shines more than it sees. Only I and Heracles are still simply sighted. And, as a sighted one, I will tell you, knowledge is power and cunning. I would not have overcome Thetis the shapeshifter if I had not known that she cast a glamour over my eyes, turning in my hands now into a beast, now into a bush, now into fire. She was cunning, but I did not let her out of my hands. I held her imperiously, knowing that all her forms were deceptive. And Chiron gave me this knowledge. Knowledge serves because it commands. That is why it is strength, because it commands. And here, recalling something from his former prophecies, Tiresias said softly, as if to himself, yes, I am now blind. But your blindness, Peleus, is still ahead of you. You will grow weak from this knowledge. Tiresias had long known that for his marriage with the immortal Nereid, the half-god Peleus would be overtaken by a punishment, premature old age and infirmity. But no one understood his prophetic words then. Each sat and pondered the words of the sighted Peleus, until the stern voice of Heracles broke the silence. I saw a beast that was a god, so strong was it. Perhaps it was your truth. And here, for the first time during the whole night's conversation, the voice of Chiron rang out. A beast cannot be a god, it is a beast. And at once all eyes turned to the suffering Titan, but he did not explain his words. Chiron looked at his guests with enormous, blazing eyes, and everyone understood that he was about to say what he had long kept hidden from them. All their hearts began to beat loudly, and for a long moment it seemed as if blind time were rushing about the cave, bumping into the walls, not knowing where the exit was. Chiron said, I give away my immortality. I, A Titan cannot be only a beast. Although his words were simple and ordinary in the circle of his guests, among whom sat the immortals Telemus the Cyclop and Silenus, their meaning was not ordinary. Never before in millennia and ages had anyone given their immortality back to life and turned themselves voluntarily into immortal. Straining to understand Chiron's thought, the guests continued to look at him in silence, submitting to that fiery sorrow which blazed in the eyes of the son of Cronus. And when Phoenix was the first to fully comprehend that Chiron was leaving life and would depart from the earth forever, he rose and with anguish in his voice said, "You are leaving us from living life, Chiron. Then all is indifferent." And here everyone understood that the Titan Chiron was no longer able to continue the struggle of living and dead life, which the Lernaean venom and the immortal strength of the Titan had been waging in his body. Suffering had overpowered his will. But the thought of Telemus could not accept this, for even the Titans cast down by lightning remain immortal in Tartarus. Yet Chiron was giving away his immortality. He said, "You are a Titan, and you have conceived a deed unworthy of a Titan." And when Chiron answered nothing, there was heard the gurgling, and then the muttering of drunken Silenus. "I would not give it away." Why give it away? Does Chiron truly wish to become a shadow forever, an empty wineskin? And the poisoned wine of life is still wine. And although Silenus muttered as if in jest, and seemed completely drunk, all listened to his drunken prattle with attention and even with timid hope. And he continued, "It will be boring for the drunkard Silenus without Chiron. You, after all, are also always drunk, just as I am. I am, from wine. You are, from wisdom. To live is to become intoxicated. I would not give away my immortality, Chiron. Did you not say this because you suddenly became too sober?" The guests of the cave understood that old Silenus wanted to keep Chiron on earth, but no one knew what to say to Chiron without lying. It is easy to persuade a suffering one to endure suffering when there is an end to the suffering. But Chiron's suffering was hopeless. Only Heracles spoke out in a darkened voice. "Chiron, you have forgotten about Heracles." And Peleus placed his hand on Phoenix's shoulder and added, "Can even Chiron become blind? Who then will be his guide? Will it not be you, Phoenix?" And at Peleus's words, the hearts of all the friends and pupils of the wise centaur clenched at the thought that Chiron the seer's reason would be blinded by the venom. Then Telemus rose and for the second time bowed before Chiron. He said, "Once more I bow to your courage, Chiron. When a Titan can no longer be a Titan, he becomes a shadow. You have decided as a Titan decides." While the sorrowing guest spoke, Chiron was collecting his thoughts. He saw how his friends loved him and decided once more to overcome his torment, to answer each of his friends and comfort them for the last time. First he turned to Phoenix. "Nothing, Phoenix, is indifferent. There is no indifference in the heart of a Titan, nor in the world of Titan truth. To whom all is indifferent, he already lives in the world of dead life, not of living. And nothing is boring while the body laughs, and while thought gives birth. I am leaving because my body only weeps and thought can no longer be a mother and beget knowledge. My immortality is now only a shadow." Thus, one by one, did Chiron, the teacher of heroes, comfort with words. He did not comfort only Silenus. He only said to him, "Old friend, the tale of the voluntary death, of the immortal centaur Chiron, and of his deathbed gifts." Sorrowful remained Chiron's friends in the cave on Malea, and he could not comfort them with anything. And the immortals Telemus and Silenus, and the mortal half-gods Tiresias, Phoenix, Peleus, and Heracles could not accept his voluntary death. Had not Chiron taught the heroes to be always like gods? Why then was he himself ceasing to be a god? Chiron understood this and wished to explain his decision to his friends and to reconcile them to his departure. He said, "It is difficult for you, who only contemplate suffering but do not suffer, to feel suffering to the end. You sympathize with me. But a sea of sympathy is not equal to one drop of hopeless suffering. Life is always joy. This the dying know, only they come to know it too late. Even life's sorrow is joy. Does not autumn bring joy with its fading? Do not tears of grief bring joy to grief itself? One does not live without joy. Even a shadow of joy is still joy. Even the cruel joy of the gods, even that brings joy to others. Is not the joy of others a wine of vigor? Except, then, my departure also is joy. Why should Chiron live any longer? I can no longer seek the roots of knowledge. I cannot walk the earth. My legs do not lift my body, nor are they able to lift my work. I can no longer heal. I am entirely poisonous, and, burning with venom, I poison the living soil. I cannot even touch a living body. I cannot teach heroes. I am entirely full of suffering. Long ago it overflowed the edge. I only grieve others with my torment. My vision is growing misty, and soon I will be blind, like Tiresias. My foresight dims along with my eyes. Not seeing the world, I will not be able with thought to create new worlds. And in this lies the whole joy of thought. They will say, Chiron is blind. Pain prevents his thought from seeing. Even this I would bear. But suffering is already devouring Chiron's thought itself. I am entirely, only food. My body, only pain. My thought, only pain. Everything within me cries out from pain. Should I then become an unceasing cry? I have nothing with which to justify this pain. The cry of aimless suffering is pitiful. High is only justified suffering. That must be endured with pride. That is why Prometheus endures his suffering, because it is a rebellious suffering. I cannot curse the gods, as he does, and awaken with my wrath the wrath of heroes. I, who have come to know what the gods have not known. Besides, the earth does not need a second rebellion suffering, when there is already Prometheus on earth. Or should I live suffer for endurance alone? That would mean ceasing to be a titan. Such suffering endurance is needed by no one. That which is needed by no one is also not needed by me. I would be empty, like a shade. Pain alone does not fill emptiness. I am, Theunneeded. And although all who heard these words of Chiron would have been glad to cry out that Chiron was needed by the world, all, nevertheless, kept silent, not daring to lie in some way. And Chiron continued his farewell speech. There will be nothing left for me to gift to living life. Well then, I will gift Chiron himself to dead life. But, going into Hades, I wish for the last time to distribute that with which Chiron is still rich even now. And for the last time, Chiron's titan strength flared up within him, and his foresight returned to him. On this night, Chiron began to give his gifts to his friends, bequeathing to them the best of what he still had. Here it is, Chiron's testament. You, Heracles, ill-fated friend of Chiron, receive from me my first gift, my immortality. Direct your steps to the Caucasus. Deliver to the chained one the news of Chiron's gift. Into the rebellious will of the weary sufferer, the unsubmissive, the irreconcilable, new strength from Chiron for the struggle for Titan freedom shall pour. Receive, then, my living life. You are Heracles, and you will carry it. The cave was wondrously illumined with an unprecedented radiance, and for an instant, Heracles himself was illumined and shone. Chiron continued his farewell word to Heracles. And you, Heracles, destroyer of the race of centaurs, will also destroy yourself. You fight with your hand, not cunningly, according to Titan truth, yet you are governed, mad one, by the Chronides. But your darkest madness is still ahead. You have destroyed the race of centaurs. From a centaur you will also receive your death points superscript 1 and not. Superscript 1F are OMACENTAURIOUWILL Heracles was destroyed by the centaur Nessus, whom he had killed, through his poisoned blood. You alone will be answerable. The generation of half-god heroes will answer for the destruction of the Titan peoples. The heroes will cleanse the earth of the race of Titans. They will destroy both Titans and giants, will think that they are destroying monsters, and the heroes will become unnecessary to the gods. They themselves will wish to be gods, and they themselves will destroy one another, according to the will of the Chronides, in ruinous wars. But they will perish in great glory. Only gods and men will remain in the world of living life. And an iron age will come upon the earth. From here, from Chiron's cave, you will go, Heracles, to a new feat, and again in blindness. Unwittingly, you, mad one, will kill a Titan within a monster. To you, Tiresias, twice blinded by the gods, I gift my foresight. The gods will not take it from you, since it is not from them, but from me, a Titan. Long will your life yet be. Read the secret thoughts of the gods and boldly reveal them to mortal heroes. And you, Peleus, Chiron has not forgotten. Receive from me, the healer, the magical spear made of Pelian ash. It strikes without fail in the hand of a hero. But, should it wound a friend, it will also heal him. Only touch the wound with the tip of its point. For another hand was this spear destined point superscript 1, it would then have been stronger than the lightnings. You will pass the spear on to your son Achilles. And Peleus received the spear from Chiron's hands. Then Chiron smiled at Silenus. Farewell to you too, old friend Silenus. Here is a sacred vessel of wine from the first vines of Dionysus. This wine heals the sighted of blindness, of blinding sobriety. Keep it until your hour of sobriety. Your blackest hour will be the hour of your sobriety. Here is the sacred wine. It seems that Chiron, too, was secretly a drunkard. And Chiron smiled at Silenus. Superscript 1F ORANOTHERHAND. In the tale, Chiron's spear was destined for the son whom Thetis was to bear from Zeus. His birth was prevented by Zeus himself, when he gave Thetis in marriage to the mortal Peleus. See page 322. Then Chiron turned to the silent Cyclop, whose eye burned brightly. I know that Telemus needs nothing, but receive from a Titan friend this drop of ambrosia from the days of Cronus's time. It has settled over the centuries. Gods and heroes came and went, but the drop remained and grew stronger with immortality. I, the son of Cronus, brought it to Malia from Pelion. Chiron has no more use for it. Keep it, Telemus, for a sick one, for that physician healer who will not heal himself. But the name of the sick one Chiron did not name. And Telemus the healer, having received the drop from the centaur in a little cup of immortelle, did not ask him for the name of the sick one. The turn of Phoenix came. The teacher healer said to him, I gave you, blinded by the gods, I so that you might see the truthfwonders, the most truthful truth. But you want not the truth of wonders, but the truth of the sighted, and you look at a wonder, insatiably dissecting it into grains of sand like a sighted one. You, a blind man. Soon you are to be the leader of the people of the Dolopians, the most sighted of all sighted peoples, whose eyes are insatiable. Rule then, blind one, over the sighted and rejoice. Then Chiron looked with a long gaze at the body of Asclepius stretched out on the cave floor, and Chiron's gaze was full of light and strength. All waited to see what the ancient Titan would gift to the healer god, and whether he could return him to living life. Yet, for some reason, Chiron hesitated, not tearing his eyes from his beloved pupil, who was immortal, yet lay stretched out before him dead. At last he began to speak, and his voice, like his gaze, was full of light. My child, my last gift I give to you. Chiron the centaur still has half of his immortality remaining. I kept this half for you, Asclepius. I will pass it on to Hades, the lord of dead life, so that he may bring my living life here, into the cave, and pour it into you, the healer god. Asclepius shall arise. But for now, let him sleep without visions here in the cave, and let him awaken when Chiron is no longer on earth. Otherwise, he would not release me to Hades. Even immortals become dead. He fell silent, and once again Chiron gazed for a long time at the body of Asclepius, to whom he was giving his living life. Calm and solemn was his voice when he spoke again. You wish to heal mortals from death, to be stronger than Ananke inevitability. Now I will heal you, the immortal, from death and return you to living life. You will be a great earthly god, but you will never ascend to the sky, and you will not be able to resurrect heroes. You will lose the secret of restoration. Chiron will carry it away with him into the world of oblivion, but living life will ever sing of it. My friends, I have divided my immortality between the worthiest, between Asclepius and Prometheus. Now I too am mortal. By a thin thread hangs the remaining half of my living life. Soon the thread will snap. Farewell. Pain and death raised their heads when I gave half of my immortality to Heracles. I can speak no more. The Cape of Taenarum is near. It is time. I myself will descend into the gloom of Hades. But cover me once more with the canopy of green foliage, so that my appearance may not offend living life. Such were the last words of the son of Cronus and the exile, the centaur Chiron, in his cave on Malia. The tale of the descent of Chiron, son of Cronus, into Hades, and of how life and death bowed to him. Although it was only to his friends and pupils that Chiron spoke of his voluntary death, already all living life on earth, and the gods in the sky, and the ocean, and the world of dead life beyond the ocean knew that Chiron was giving away his immortality and descending voluntarily into Hades. A silent throng stood, Chiron's guests, titans and half-gods, at the entrance to the cave, following him with their eyes on his way. No one followed him. Neither the Cyclop, nor Silenus, nor the sight regained Tiresias, nor Phoenix, nor Peleus, nor Heracles. It was morning, like youth. And in that early morning, there simultaneously rose to the sky Eos dawn, and Helios sun, and Selene moon, and the stars. The high sky opened, and on it, the peaks of Olympus. And on those peaks stood all the Chronide gods, just as silent as Chiron's guests, and gazed after the departing son of Cronus. The Chronides could not fail to honor the son of Cronus. Above him, along the diamond heavenly road, stretched a long procession of Titans' luminaries. Slowly stepped the solar horses, accustomed to galloping, and in front of the chariot of the sun walked, bowing his head in his sun crown, the Titan Helios, so that all the rays of his crown might surround the white hair of Chiron with a wondrous sparkle and gild the foliage upon him, so that he might appear a beautiful god. Chiron walked, limping heavily, but striving to hide his limp, so as not to offend living life even by this, for he was a Titan, the son of Cronus, and could not humiliate the Titans. He walked, and life bowed before him, and all living things on earth, on his farewell path. Although there was no wind, the trees bent their crowns low, to the very ground, before him, and the dryads sang their green songs, which they sing only in sleep. The grasses spread like soft silk, and the flowers sent him all their fragrance, leaving nothing for themselves. Even the thorns, parting, kissed the tracks of his feet. Beasts came out of the thickets and lay down along the forest edges and by the edges of mountain meadows and paths. Deer lowered their antlers to the ground. It was as if teeth and claws had vanished at once, so meekly did the beasts of prey lie. And astonishment stood in the eyes of lions and leopards. Streams stopped their flow or, turning their course, accompanied Chiron with the tender, alluring ring of watery harps. And river gods and naiads surfaced and flowed along with the river streams, revealing their beauty. No one wept. No one asked anything of Chiron. A song of quiet joy sang the earth, so that by the spectacle of the might and flowering of living life, it might stop Chiron and return him to itself once more. The singing birds sang their most nightingale-like songs, and even eagles and owls began to sing songs of sharp sight and blindness. All this did the chronicle oaks record under their bark in age-old rings, and that was the only day when stones wished to be soft, and when, around the fiery lake in the hollow, the mountains led a round dance. Slowly Chiron walked. In no way did he show his suffering, so as not to darken the joy of life. And when, descending from the mountains, he reached the sea, the Titan Nereus swam out of the sea depths, and with him the Nereids, to take leave of Chiron. And with such turbulent life did the sea play, and such a blue of eyes did the Nereids beckon him, bursting with their gliding bodies the necklaces of myriads of pearls. But again Chiron ascended into the mountains, and at last reached the ravine of Taenarum, where the black mist swirls. And, seeing Chiron, the black mists began at once to retreat in confusion. Their swirls thinned, crawling out of the ravine towards the sea, and the whole depth of the ravine of Taenarum opened in the cold light. Behind the light lay the gloom. For a long time the centaur Chiron stood above the steep descent into the abyss of the ravine and gazed into its depth and gloom, taking leave of the light and air of life, of the dew, flowers, and rays. At last he raised his human head once more to the sky and saw above him the Titan of the sun, Helios. The Titans nodded to one another, and Chiron began to descend slowly. Never yet on earth had there been such an hour when all living life grieved. Always in it, laughter and tears, joy and sadness, were combined. But when Chiron stepped onto the path leading to Hades, grief seized all of nature. The rustle of leaves in the forest hushed. The chirping and singing of birds fell silent. The flight of eagles and doves stilled in the air. Springs ceased to ring, and the stream and the wave froze. Even time did not dare to glide, with its 1,000 feet, along its 1,000 roads on the earth, and in the water, and in the air. And if tradition tells of a weeping of birds and a weeping of stones for Chiron, unprecedented before on earth, perhaps then indeed did the birds and stones weep. Let them then be ashamed of their tears for all their life. And Chiron saw in the distance the black waters of the ocean and the golden boat of the sun on the other shore. In the world of living life, it was already evening. The sun Helios himself stood in the golden boat and beckoned to Chiron with a golden, or perhaps Chiron would yet return, and then the sun Helios would ferry him back again. But Chiron did not return. And when he approached the entrance to Hades, the demon of death, Thanatos, stepped out to meet the centaur, as if to a guest. He stood at the entrance, and at his feet lay Cerberus, laying his 3 heads on the ground. And Death bowed low before Chiron, without touching him with her hand. Thus completed his final journey the immortal Titan, the kindly centaur Chiron, son of ancient Cronus, healer of mortals and mentor of half-god heroes, who gifted his immortality to living life. And life and death bowed to him on his final path. The tale of the capture of the god of war, Ares, by the young giants, the Alodes. Once upon a time there lived twins, the young giant Alodes, those who, for their amusement, piled mountains upon mountains. Strange amusements did these young giant Alodes love. Once, during a boar hunt, they caught the god of war, the fierce Ares. They placed on his arms and legs unbreakable fetters of olive, the tree of peace, which is stronger than adamant and bronze, and hid him underground, in a bronze cellar. There was no more war on earth. Peace blossomed all around, and together with peace, all that was small on earth rejoiced. The large no longer tramples the small. The large no longer kills the small. The smallest grows into the large, and fear vanished on earth. The small does not fear the large. There is no war. And pompousness vanished on earth. The small does not cringe before the large and important. There is no war. And no one honors the large just because it is fearsome, but honors the large only when it is truly large, and not at all fearsome. The large, fearsome crown-eyed gods are displeased with this. And besides, they grew bored without war. What is peace and quiet to them, the gods? Their passions are great. They need battles, and what battles? So that rivers would become bloody, so that seas would become bloody, so that all the earth and half the sky would drown in blood. If only the very peak of the sky would remain azure, there where the crown-eyed gods live. Well, the young giants had amused themselves. There is no war, and the gods cannot wage war against the Alodes. Here Hermes the Deceiver came to the gods' rescue, as always. He rushed to the bronze cellar where the Alode brothers hid the god of war, Ares. Hermes cannot step over the forbidden threshold of the bronze cellar, cannot remove the fetters of olive from Ares. Only the Moirai Fates can do that. Hermes appeared before the three sisters, the Moirai Fates. He said, "All of you, great sisters, spin the threads of life for mortals, but the life of the Titans is not in your hands. What are the ancient Moirai, the daughters of night, to them? They hid Ares the warrior in a bronze cellar, placed upon him unbreakable fetters of olive, the tree of peace. They have violated the will of the Moirai. What do you command me to do? How to free Ares?" Hermes twists and turns before the Moirai, but the Moirai are silent. The ancient Moirai honor the ancient Titans. Then the Black Raven says to Hermes, "Go to Nemesis Retribution." Hermes flew to Nemesis, but Nemesis already knows everything. She summoned the blind 8 Ruin from the netherworld and says to 8 Ruin, "Go, 8 with Hermes. He will lead you to the guilty ones." Hermes led 8 to the bronze cellar. The blind 8 does not see that before her is the bronze, forbidden cellar. She descended into the cellar, tore, in her blindness, the fetters of olive from Ares, and Ares, the god of war, came out onto the earth. Then the cunning Hermes clapped him on the back with his palm, and Ares roared over the whole earth. The large, fearsome gods exulted. Ares is giving voice. Ares has returned. Mythological Dictionary. Aglaia, Chesperides. Adamant, something indestructible, diamond, steel. Hades, Ctartarus. Aea, the city of the sun in Colchis, named after King Ides, son of the Titan of the sun, Helios. Aegipan, son of Aga, the she-goat who nursed Zeus. A chimera-like monster, nicknamed the fearsome satyr. Aethra, the radiant one, the solar Titaness Pleione, wife of Atlas. Aloeus, a solar titan, father of the twin giants, the Alode brothers, cast down by Zeus into Tartarus. Amazons, warlike female riders of a titanic race, later destroyed by half-god heroes. Anaurus, a river in Thessaly. Anankenecessity, or Inevitability, the inescapable force of nature. Argolis, a region in the Peloponnese. Argus, a titan, nicknamed Panoptes, the all-seeing, the personification of the starry sky, a faithful servant and guardian protector of the goddess Hera. Ares, the god of war, an Olympian, son of Hera and Zeus, hated by Zeus. Arethusa, a nymph of a brook. Arcadia, a region in the Peloponnese. Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, sister of Apollo. Asclepius, Aesculapius, the god of healing and lord of serpents. The little serpent became the emblem of physicians from ancient times. Aesopus, a titan, the river god of the river Aesopus. Aesopides, titanesses, river nymphs, daughters of Aesopus. Asphodels, or Asphodils, a plant, gold-headed lily, asphodel. In the subterranean world, there was an asphodel meadow. Aphareus, a Messenian titan giant, father of Idas and Lynceus. Athenapallas, daughter of Zeus, the virgin warrioress, goddess of wisdom. Theabysofwhirlwinds, according to the fabled narrative geography, lay beneath Tartarus. Silentmarriage, a forced marriage, by the will of Zeus, of a titaness or goddess with a mortal half-god hero, or a secret marriage of a goddess with a mortal, demanded silence and the non-interference of the mortal in the affairs of the immortal party. Otherwise, the deity would vanish and the marriage would be dissolved. This found its echo in folktales, where a deity or magical being forbade the mortal with whom it entered into marriage from learning who his or her spouse was. Violation of the prohibition led to separation. The Nereid Thetis abandoned Peleus because he spied on her at a moment when she was holding the body of their son, the infant Achilles, in the fire to make him immortal. Bellerophon, a half-god hero, tamer of the winged horse Pegasus, conqueror of the monstrous Chimera and of the Titanic peoples, the Selimians and the Amazons. Boreas, a titan, the harsh northern Thracian wind. Briareus, a hundred-handed monster, an early offspring of Gaia and Uranus, dwelling in the depths of the Aegean Sea. C. Bacchus, Dionysus. In the tales, the god of wine, who sends down madness upon mortals. Giants, ancient fabled mountain people. The first giants were the stone human mountains, the personification of wandering mountains. Generally, giants. Hecate. In the tales, the nocturnal goddess of ominous incantations. Heliades. In ancient tales, the Titanesses. Erida Rainbow, the messenger of the gods. Heliadae. In ancient tales, the solar titans. Hippopius, Porphyrion, and others. The majority of them were cast down into Tartarus by Zeus or Apollo. Helios, the titan of the sun, son of the titan Hyperion, who was cast down into Tartarus by Zeus. He was accepted into the circle of the Olympians. Later, he was supplanted by the young solar god of the race of the Cronaides, Apollo. The tale of the casting down by Zeus into the river Eridanus of the youth Phaethon, son of Helios, who nearly burned up the world, replaced the ancient tale of the casting down of Helios himself by Apollo. Helicon, the mountain of the Muses. Hermes, the god Hermes, the cunning son of Zeus and Maia, one of the Pleiades. The messenger of the gods, the patron of tricksters. He is also the sole guide, Psychopomp, the escort of the shades of the dead into Hades. Hero, a half-god, a demigod, a mighty warrior, one of whose parents was mortal, and the other, an immortal god of Olympus. We distinguish 3 generations of heroes, the elder, the middle, and the younger. The heroes of the elder generation belong to the race of the Titans. They are hostile to the Cronaid gods. Almost all of them are Zeus fighters. Tantalus, Sisyphus, Salmoneus, Ixion, and others, and were cast down into Tartarus. The middle generation of heroes, the great ascetics, the destroyers of giants, of titanic monsters and peoples. Their feats are combined into 3 main tales. 1. The Peleromachi, the struggle against monsters. 2. The Centauromachi, the struggle against the titanic race of centaurs. 3. The Amazonomachi, or Amazonia, the struggle against the titanic race of Amazons. The mightiest of the half-god heroes, ascetics, were the sons of Zeus, Perseus, Heracles, and others. The younger generation of heroes, the participants in the heroic Theban and Trojan wars. Upon the heroes' completion of their mission as destroyers, the race of half-god heroes, according to the design of Zeus, perished in internecine wars of extermination, the Theban and the Trojan. These tales can be unified into the tale of how the heroes died out in the Hellenic land. Hesperus, the starry youth, the herald of evening, the companion of the evening star. Hesperides, half-maidens, half-birds, the guardians of the magical golden apples in the garden of the Hesperides. They are 3, Aglaia, the radiant, Erythea, the crimson-winged, and Hesperia, the evening one. Hephaestus, the smith god and master craftsman, nicknamed the Lame One. He became lame after Zeus, in a rage, seized him by the leg and threw him from the sky to the earth, onto the island of Lemnos, because he had interceded for his mother, the goddess Hera, who had nearly destroyed Heracles just before the Gigantomachy. The gods knew that without the help of Heracles, a mortal, the giants could not be destroyed and would defeat Zeus. Hera, plotting to overthrow Zeus and therefore not desiring the destruction of the giants, with the aim of destroying Heracles, raised a storm at sea just when Heracles, after the destruction of the walls of Troy, was sailing to the island of the giants, Kos. As a punishment for the cone storm, Zeus suspended Hera on a golden chain between heaven and earth. Hyas, a youth, brother of the starry Hyades, torn apart by a monstrous beast. Hyades, daughters of the Titan Atlas, nicknamed the Weeping Ones, a constellation of the zodiac. The rising of the Hyades portended rain. Gigantes, subterranean offspring of Gaia Earth, who entered into struggle with the Olympian Cronaides for power over the world. In contrast to the immortal Titans, the Gigantes are mortal. According to the meaning of the myth, the Gigantes were the descendants of the ancient Titans, cast down into the subterranean darkness of Tartarus or thrown into the gloom by the ocean, into the caves at the edge of the earth. Therefore, the Gigantes were depicted with dragon or serpent tails. The serpent serves as a sign of subterranean, chthonic origin. The image of the Gigantes as warriors emerging from the earth in pointed helmets, with spears, is a later one, inspired by the images of Homeric heroes. Already in ancient times, Titans and Gigantes were confused. The Gigantes were destroyed by Heracles and the Olympian gods, the Gigantomachy. Hyperborea, a fabled land located, according to narrative geography, at the edge of the earth, near the World River Ocean. Hyperion, Chelios, Hippocontid, or Hippocoon, a Peloponnesian hero who exiled Tyndareus and wounded Heracles. Gorgo, according to popular belief, a hideous, demonic old hag of the netherworld, a devourer of children. Her image was transferred onto the image of the Gorgon Titanesses. Graeae, the three beautiful daughters of the Titan Phorcys, born with gray hair and swan-like necks. Later they turned into monstrous old women, possessing one eye and one fang among the three of them, and became the guardians of the sleeping Gorgon sisters. Thedlephian, Apollo. Delphi, the famous sanctuary with the oracle of Apollo, the chief abode of the god. Dike, the Olympian goddess of truth and lawful order, seated at the right hand of the throne of Zeus. Dionysustornapart, the so-called Dionysus I, who, according to tradition, was supposedly torn apart by the Titans. Thedioscuri, the twin brothers Castor and Polydeuces, sons of the swan maiden Leda. Polydeuces, the son of Zeus, was immortal, while Castor, the son of Tyndareus, was mortal. Later, the Dioscuri became the saviors of mortals in distress, especially of sailors, and the patrons of heroes in battles. Thedodonianoak, the speaking oak in Dodona, an oracle. Thedoloppians, a titanic people. Drepane, an island under which was kept the magical sickle, harp, of Mother Earth Gaia, lethal to immortal beings. Dryad, a nymph who lives in a tree. Thearthofpelops, the Peloponnese. Zephyr, a Titan wind, the father of Eros, who was born of the Titaness Iris rainbow. Thegoldenage. In Tales, the mythological age of paradisal bliss on earth, when the inhabitants of the earth knew neither evil, nor toil, nor suffering, and were immortal. Thegolden, a nickname of Zeus, who penetrated into the subterranean bronze tower to Danae through a crevice as a golden rain, i.e., a stream of rays. From Zeus, Danae conceived the half-god hero Perseus. Thegoldenappples, cthegardenoftHehesperides. Idas, a Titan giant, great hero, son of Aphareus. Iris, in the Tales, a Titaness of the race of solar Titans, the Heliodai, the sister of Helios, the Titan of the sun. She was accepted into the Olympian pantheon as the goddess of the rainbow and messenger of the gods. According to another version, Iris is the daughter of the sea Titan Thaumas and the Oceanid Electra. Isthmus, the isthmus connecting the Peloponnese with central Greece. Callirrhoe, an Oceanid, the mother of the Titaness Echidna. Keresbanes, demons of the netherworld. Cylene, a mountain in Arcadia. Cyclopes, one-eyed giants, children of Earth Gaia. Mythological tradition tells of 4 kinds of Cyclopes. 1. The solar Cyclopes, the Eurynesians. 2. The thunder Cyclopes, the Thunderers. 3. The many-handed Cyclopes, the architects, builders of walls, the Cheirogastiers, cf. Cyclopean constructions. The latter were destroyed by Dionysus during the capture of Mycenae. 4. The man-eating Cyclopes of the Odyssey, a degenerated and run-wild tribe of the once kindly Cyclopes. The kindly Cyclop Telemus, mentioned in the Odyssey, serves as the image of the former. 3 of the Thunder Cyclopes became the subterranean smiths after the victory of the Chronides over the Titans. Cycnus, a giant, son of the war god Ares. Thecernitianhind, the golden-horned, uncatchable hind of Artemis. Circe, the daughter of Helios, a disgraced Titaness of the race of solar Titans, dwelling on the island of Aea, at the edge of the earth. Cyanee, a legendary sacred spring in Messenia, the site of the struggle of the Ephyridae, Idas and Lynceus, with Polydeuces, the son of Zeus. Theoathbythestyx, the unbreakable oath of the gods, sworn by the subterranean river Styx. For violating this oath, The oath-breaking god was cast down for 9 years into Tartarus. Therootsofthalthatexist hung down into the great abyss of whirlwinds, which lies beneath Tartarus. See Hesiod, Theogony. Cronis, Agla, a Titaness, daughter of the solar Thessalian titan Phlegyas, mother of the healer god Asclepius. Thevultreoftartarus, a dragon-like monster, half bird, half serpent, flying out of Tartarus to tear at the liver of Prometheus. In Tartarus, 2 such vultures tore at the cast-down Delphian titan Tityus. Subsequently, the vulture of Prometheus was replaced in myths by the eagle of Zeus. Thecoanstorm, Chephaestus, Cronus, a titan, the son of Uranus Sky and Gaia Earth, the leader of the Titans and of the mythological Golden Age on Earth. He mastered the world, having deprived his father, Uranus, of his power. From Cronus, the Titaness Rhea gave birth to the younger generation of gods, the so-called Cronides. The Titans, under the leadership of Cronus, suffered defeat at the hands of the Cronides, and Cronus was cast down by Zeus Cronides with his lightnings into Tartarus. Much later, a myth was created, see Aeschylus, the trilogy Prometheus, the Odes of Pindar, and others, of how Zeus brought Cronus back out of Tartarus and made him king of the islands of the blessed, beyond the ocean. Not in the world of living life, where men and gods dwell, but in the world of dead life. Thecronides, the younger generation of gods, the children of Cronus and Rhea, and also the immortal sons and daughters of these gods, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, Hephaestus, Dionysus, and others. Ladon, a river titan, and the name of a river in Arcadia, the son of the elder titan Phorcys, who was cast down into Tartarus, nicknamed Phorcys the Younger. Therefore, he is called in the tales of Phorcid. He took on the form of a dragon and became the guardian of the garden of the Hesperides, CthegardenoftHesperides, and of its wondrous apple tree. Laconia, a region in the Peloponnese, with the capital city of Sparta. Lapiths, a titanic race of tree people dwelling on the mountains of Pelion in central Greece. Leucippus, a giant of Laconia, of the race of Titans in the Peloponnese. His name is connected with the Leucippid sisters. Leucippides, Phoebeandhilaeira, 2 daughters of Leda, Titaness shapeshifters, nicknamed the White Mares. Leda, a Titaness, a swan maiden, the mother of the Leucippides and of the Dioscuri. Lemnos, a volcanic island in the Aegean Sea, in whose bowels, according to mythology, was located the subterranean forge, where at first the Cyclops hammerers worked, and later, after their murder by Apollo, the smith god Hephaestus. Thelearneanvenom, the venom of the Lernaean Hydra, daughter of the Titaness Echidna, slain by Heracles. In this venom, Heracles dipped his arrows, which became lethal even to immortal beings. Libyan, African. Lycormas, a mountain torrent in Aetolia, rich in rapids, and the river god of this torrent. Lycurgusofthrace, a Dionysus fighter, who fell victim to the madness sent down upon him by Dionysus. Themagnesinianmares, so called after the name of Magnesia, a region within the Pelion mountain range, where they grazed. Maia, Chermes, Malea, a mountain with a cave in the south of the Peloponnese, where the kindly centaur Chiron was wounded by the arrow of Heracles. Melos, a river. The word melos means song. Menoetius, the elder brother of Prometheus and Atlas, cast down into Tartarus by the lightnings of Zeus for his supermight. Mesenia, a region in the southwest of the Peloponnese. Metis, a Titaness, one of the Oceanids, the favorite of Earth Gaia, who understood the thoughts of the earth. Her name means thought. Overcome in the struggle by Zeus, Metis conceived from him the goddess Athena, and, being pregnant, was swallowed by Zeus. It was prophesied to Zeus that Metis would bear him a son who would be stronger than Zeus himself and his lightnings, and would also bear him a mighty daughter. The fruit of Metis' thought began to develop within the head of Zeus. The birth was difficult, and Prometheus had to split open the head of Zeus for the birth of the daughter of Metis' thought. Out of the head of Zeus came the goddess Athena, See the tale of the Titaness Medusa. Midas, the legendary Lydian king, to whom Apollo gave donkey's ears because he rated the musical art of Pan higher than the art of Apollo. Themoirai, Ctheoathbythyx. Momus, the son of Night, a god of Olympus, nicknamed the Scoffer, the personification of the sarcastic mind. In the tales, truthful through falsehood, since he held that falsehood lies at the base of existence. Theseaofcronus lay in the western part of the Mediterranean Sea, near the ocean. Naiads, nymphs of lakes, rivers, and springs. Nemertes, a Titaness, daughter of Nereus, the Titan and god of the seas, the most truth-loving of the Nereids. Nemea, a region of the Peloponnese. Thenereids, immortal sea nymphs, daughters of the truth-loving Titan Nereus, the sea god. They should not be confused with the Oceanids, the daughters of the Titan Oceanus. The most famous Nereid in mythology was Thetis, the wife of the hero Peleus, the mother of Achilles. Nessus, the last centaur on earth, the ferryman across the torrent Euenus. According to the myth, he was later killed by Heracles. Nephele, the goddess of clouds in the Olympian pantheon, a Titaness by origin. Nymphs, divine maidens of titanic origin, lower deities. Some of them were only relatively immortal. Such are the Dryads, who die together with the tree in which they lived. Deceits, deceptive dreams, flying out of the netherworld through the gates of ivory. They are contrasted with prophetic dreams, which fly out through the gates of horn. Ogygia, Boeotia, in central Greece. Aegla, Ccoronis. Theocean, 1. The world river, encircling the earth, which separates the world of living life, where gods and mortals dwell, from the world of dead life, where the shades of the deceased dwell. 2. Oceanus, with a capital letter, the most ancient Titan, the lord of the world river. Theoceanids, Titanesses, daughters of Oceanus and Tethys. Olympus, the mountain, the dwelling place of the gods, later, the sky. Omphalos, the navel of the earth, the location of which was considered to be Delphi. Oreads, mountain nymphs. Orion, a giant hunter. He was turned into a starry hunter, the pursuer of the Pleiades. According to the myth, for his merciless destruction of beasts on earth, at the complaint of Earth Gaia, he was killed by an arrow of the goddess Artemis the huntress. That is, he was cast down into Tartarus. The moral condemnation of Orion, to justify his destruction, indicates that this version arose later, from an episode taken from the Titanomachy, the struggle of the Cronaids against the Titans. Ossa, a mountain next to Pelion and Olympus. Pandia, the goddess of the noontide hour. Pallas, a nickname of the goddess Athena. Panic, the stampeding flight of herds, frightened by the voice of Pan. Peleus, a Thessalian half-god hero, a pupil of the wise centaur Chiron, a participant in the hunt for the Caledonian boar. He was in a silent marriage, Silentmarriage, with the Nereid Thetis against her will, the father of Achilles. Pelion, a mountain range in Thessaly, the northern center of mythological tales. On Pelion, according to legend, was the famous cave of the centaur Chiron, blocked up with a stone. Pelops, a half-god hero, the son of Tantalus, the ancient Titan, the god of the Lydian mountain Sipylus. Thethunderbolt, the lightning weapon of Zeus, charged with lightning projectiles, which were manufactured for Zeus by the Cyclopes in their subterranean forge. Subsequently, the thunderbolt and the lightnings were identified as one. Perse, the mother of the Oceanid Callirrhoe, who gave birth to the beautiful wonder maiden Echidna. Perseus, a half-god hero, the son of Zeus, the golden rain, and Danae, the slayer of Medusa. Pylos, a city in Elis, in the Peloponnese. Phoros, the herald of Eos dawn, a horse and a youth on horseback, who rides out first onto the heavenly road in the early morning. Pitheus, the leader of the tree people Lapiths, the father of Aethra, the mother of Theseus, and the foster father of Theseus. Thepleiades, starry maiden Titanesses, daughters of the Titan Atlas. A 7-star cluster, in which 6 stars sparkle with a diamond brilliance, while the seventh star, Merope, twinkles dimly. Poseidon, the lord of the waters, brother of Zeus, of the race of the Chronides. Thepregods, pre-Olympian gods who overcame giants. Procrustes, a giant on the isthmus, the enemy of the tree people Lapiths, killed by Theseus. The well-known tale of the bed of Procrustes is an echo of an ancient, vanished folk tale. Procrustes, a woodcutter sawyer, the bed of Procrustes, a sawbench, the travelers whom he laid on the bench, logs. In the myth, the sawyer woodcutter turned into the cruel King Procrustes, who lays on a bed all travelers passing through the isthmus. Whose of the travelers' legs were longer than the bed, he sawed them off. Whose were shorter, he stretched them. Theseus, the foster son of the man Pine Pythius and the son of his daughter Aethra, dealt with the destroyer of the tree people. In the later myth, he defeats the cruel king robber. Rheaccronus. Thegeneoftehesperides. Of the fate of the Garden of the Hesperides, tradition has preserved for us two variants. According to one, Heracles himself entered the magical garden, slew the dragon Ladon, tore out the wondrous apple tree, filled up the spring of immortality, and devastated the garden. According to the other variant, Heracles followed the advice of Prometheus, whom he had freed from the tormentor vulture, or eagle, and asked Atlas the sky holder to fetch him 3 golden apples from the Garden of the Hesperides, while he himself, during the absence of Atlas, supported the firmament. Knowing that Heracles was the destroyer of everything titanic on earth, Prometheus feared that Heracles would kill the Titan-laden dragon and destroy the apple tree. The subsequent part of the tale, of how Atlas, having returned from the garden, did not wish to take the weight of the sky upon himself, and how Heracles feigned agreement to remain the sky holder, but only asked the Titan to take the firmament on his shoulder for a moment, while Heracles adjusted the so-called cushion, part of a column, that had slipped from his shoulder, and thus outwitted Atlas, is a later version. Salmoneus, a Titan god fighter, the brother of Sisyphus. He imitated Zeus the thunderer and lightning hurler, and was cast down into Tartarus by the lightnings of Zeus. The version of his imitating Zeus is a later one, created as a pretext to explain the casting down of Salmoneus into Tartarus for blasphemy. Sisyphus, a solar titan, cast down into Tartarus. The tale of the trickster Sisyphus, who lived 2 lives, is connected with the story of Sisyphus becoming mortal. There are 2 versions of the tale, Sisyphus and death. The first version, Sisyphus binds the death that came for him. All that is living in nature ceases to die. The not dying turns into a calamity. Zeus sends Ares, war, to free death from her imprisonment. Ares frees death, the demon Thanatos, and hands Sisyphus over to her. The second version, Sisyphus, dying, bequeaths to his wife, Merope, not to bring the usual gifts to the god Hades and not to bury his corpse. The enraged Hades, not having received the usual gifts, sends the shade of the trickster, who had accused his wife of negligence, out of the subterranean world to his wife for the gifts. The shade of Sisyphus enters his body, and the king begins to live a second time. He dies from senile weakness. Thesirens. The ancient muses of the world of the Titans, who once sang of Cronus and Rhea, were turned by the goddess Demeter into half-maidens, half-birds after the victory of the Chronides over the Titans. Sirenisland, an island where a part of the centaurs, fleeing from the arrows of Heracles, were bewitched. Theolofwisdom, the emblem of Athena, a theriomorphic image of the goddess Athena. Spercheus, a river titan and a river in northern Greece. Styx, a subterranean Titaness, the daughter of Tartarus, and the river of oblivion of the same name in the netherworld. Syrinx, a mouth-blown musical instrument, composed of reed pipes. Taygetus, a mountain titan and the mountain range of the same name in the Peloponnese. Taygeta, a Titaness, one of the Pleiades. Tartarus, Tartarus, like Hades, is a region of the netherworld. Tartarus lies beneath Hades. In Hades dwell the shades of mortals. In Tartarus, the cast-down immortal beings, the ancient Titans, under the guard of the 100-handed ones. Tartessus, a fabled, wondrous city near the Atlantean realms. Historians place its location at the mouth of the river Guadalquivir, near silver mines. The name, Tartessus, entered into Proverbs to denote legendary wealth. Telemus, the kindly Cyclop healer. Taenarum, a deep ravine in the south of the Peloponnese, According to mythology, the descent into Hades. Tethys, the spouse of the Titan Oceanus and the mother of the Oceanids. Tyndareus, nicknamed the Shaker, a Laconian Titan giant. The legendary husband of Leda, the mother of Helen of Sparta. Tyndareus is an epithet of Zeus. Tyryns, a city in the Peloponnese, where Eurystheus reigned, at whose command Heracles performed his 12 labors. Thyrs, in the tales, the magical staff of the god Bacchus Dionysus, manufactured for him by the Cyclops smiths, the weapon of Bacchus in the struggle against the giants. Titans, the immortal children of Mother Earth Gaia and Sky Uranus, the elder generation of gods. Among the most ancient titans are those mentioned in the tales: Oceanus, Hyperion, Iapetus, Cronus, Phorcys, as well as the titanesses Rhea, Tethys, and others. Typhoeus, the monstrous son of Gaia Earth, the opponent of Zeus and the second husband of Echidna. Triton, a Titan giant. In the tales, a god of a lake. He has the tail of a fish. Later, in Olympian mythology, he appears as the son of Poseidon and Amphitrite. Tritons, sea satyrs, the pursuers of Nereids. Theuranus, children of Uranus. A name for the Titans, especially the astral ones. Thephaeacians, a blessed people of a titanic race, of whom the Odyssey tells. Phoenix, 1. A Thessalian half-god hero, blinded by mortals, and then healed of his blindness by the centaur Chiron, his mentor. 2. A fabled bird, first burning up and then being reborn from its own ashes. Thetis, cthenereids, philomela, a princess, transformed into a nightingale after her tongue was cut out. Phorcid, cladon, phorcys, Phorcys the Elder, the most ancient sea titan, the husband of the abyss Ceto, the father of the Gorgons and the Gree. Phorcys the Younger is his son, the river titan of Arcadia, named Ladon, Cladon. Phorcys the Younger, in the form of a dragon, became the guardian of the golden apples in the garden of the Hesperides. The golden apples were to rejuvenate and return beauty, after the Gigantomachy, to the Titans cast down into Tartarus, in the event of the victory of the giants over the Chronide gods. Cheirogasteres, cthecyclopes, Chrysaor, the son of Medusa, born by her following Pegasus at that instant when Perseus was cutting off her head, the father of the Titaness Echidna, the husband of Callirrhoe. Thelameone, Chephaestus, Euenus, the god of the torrent of the same name in Messenia. Theaegis, the shaggy goatskin with the face of the Gorgon, which covered the chest of Zeus the Thunderer. Zeus flayed this skin from his nurse Aga, a chimera-like monster. The shaggy skin is the personification of a thundercloud. Aegina, a nymph Titaness, the daughter of the water titan Asopus, abducted by Zeus, the mother of the hero Aeacus. Ctheasopids. Elysium, the post-mortal place of bliss in the world of dead life. Aeolus, the god of the winds, a titan. Epope, a locality near Corinth, the center of tales about the solar titans. Erebus, the darkness of the netherworld. Eridanus, Chelios. Erymanthuus, a mountain in Arcadia, abounding in wild boars. Erytheia1, the Red Island, or the Island of Sunset, in the ocean. On this island lived the three-bodied giant Geryon, slain by Heracles. 2. The name of one of the Hesperides. Aetolia, a region in the west of central Greece, north of Messenia. Echo, a mountain nymph, the personification of an echo. Echiones, the descendants of the serpent-legged ones. Jason, a half-god hero, a pupil of the centaur Chiron, later the leader of the Argonauts. Iapetus, one of the most ancient titans, cast down by Zeus into Tartarus during the Titanomachy. The father of the mightiest and wisest of the Titan Zeus fighters, Prometheus, Atlas, and Menoetius, the bearers of the rebellious spirit, the irreconcilable opponents of the gods. Therefore, his sons are called the Iapetids. Thousands of years of suffering could not break their rebellious titanic will. Yakovgolosovker. This is the usual signature in the manuscripts and dedicatory inscriptions of the writer and philosopher Yakov Emanuilovich Golisovkar. Golisovkar was born in Kiev into the family of a surgeon on August 23, September 4, New Style, 1890. He died in Moscow on July 20, 1967. His gravestone monument at the cemetery of Peredelkino, near Moscow, stands opposite the burial site of Boris Pasternak. Golisovkar received a classical education at Kiev University and first appeared in print in 1913. After the events of 1917, he moved to Moscow. Initially, he was an organizer of school education, and then, until the end of the 1920s, he lectured at higher educational institutions on the history of ancient Greek literature, antique aesthetics, and philosophy. Golisovkar thought of himself as a classicist in the broadest understanding of this scholarly specialty, i.e., not only a connoisseur of ancient Greek and Latin languages, but also of literature, philosophy, and the culture of antiquity as a whole, as well as of the antique problematic in the world culture of subsequent epochs, a translator and commentator of ancient texts, and a composer of literary and artistic works on themes of antiquity. Even after the Revolution, the world of ideas remained dear to Golisovkar, ideas at the base of which were notions that had formed earlier, and therefore, he had to earn his living mainly through the labor of a translator. He was the first to translate the works of the German classic of the late 18th century, Hölderlin, and Thus Spake Zarathustra by Nietzsche. This text has not yet been published. In 1936, Golisovkar was arrested. He spent 3 years in a penal labor camp in Vorkuta. The right of Moscow residency was restored to him only in 1943. In those years, he also came to know the tragedy of the destruction of his works by the elemental force of fire. An artist, to whom he had entrusted his manuscripts on the eve of his arrest, when dying, burned them. During the war, our dacha burned down. G was the brother of my mother, where other manuscripts were stored, and he set about the agonizing task of restoring what had been lost. To some extent, a prose work was restored, the action of which takes place in Moscow at the end of 1920. It was published under the title The Burned Novel in the journal Friendship of Peoples, No. 7, 1991, and is being translated into foreign languages. In 1963, the book Dostoevsky and Kant, a reader's reflections on the novel, The Brothers Karamazov and Kant's treatise Critique of Pure Reason was published. In 1991, in the 4th issue of the journal Russian Literature, an essay about Lermontov's work Stus was published. Posthumously, though not in its entirety, the main philosophical work of Golisovkar, The Imaginative Absolute, a work on the mechanism and significance of the creative imagination, was also published. The philosopher held that imagination is the highest reason and that what is incomprehensible to the mind is known through the imagination. With the publication of the book, The Logic of Myth, in 1987, the author's name immediately entered the host of original thinkers of our century. In the post-war years, Golisovkar was best known for his works in the sphere of the culture of antiquity. His books of translations were published: Horace, Selected Odes, Lyric Poets of Ancient Hellas and Rome. Tales of the Titans, written in rhythmic prose, came out in Detches, twice, in 1933 and 1937, and separately, The Tale of the Centaur Chiron, 1961. In these, in a literary and artistic form, relying on the knowledge accumulated by scholarship, the philosopher undertook an attempt to restore the lost ancient Hellenic myths. Scholars highly valued also the scholarly significance of this work. A. P. Kasdan wrote of this in an obituary dedicated to Golisovkar, in the Herald of Ancient History, No. 2, 1968. Prepared for publication and kept in the archive is an enormous anthology of translations of works by the poets of ancient Greece and Rome, encompassing almost 1.5 millennia of antique culture and, simultaneously, 200 years of the art of Russian translation. Also compiled was a prospectus and an anthology, The Antique World in Russian Poetry. The meaning of the philosopher's life was his creative work. To it, he gave all his strength, and therefore he valued above all his freedom, the independence of his spirit, and his works for the most part remained unpublished during his lifetime. This extraordinary man was also endowed with an extraordinary appearance. N.I. Conrad, the renowned Orientalist and historian of culture, an academician who greatly contributed to the publication of Golisovkar's works, wrote of this figuratively. All of us, writers, scholars, are educated to a degree, talented to a degree, but ordinary. He, however, a scholar, a writer, is extraordinary, as is his outward appearance, the head of Marx with the eyes of Tagore.